welcome back to another episode of Artist Unframed. Today we are going to be interviewing our co-host, Aaron Ross. My name is Bernice Miller. Aaron and I went to film school together at University of North Carolina School of the Arts. We decided to come together to start this podcast. If you checked out episode 1, thank you very much. Be sure to like and subscribe. So yeah, last episode we went back and talked about my experience
Yep.
leading up until film school. So it's the same. I would like to do that to you. Talk about how did you get to film school? When did you first call yourself an artist?
All right. So when did I first call myself an artist? I didn't.
You're still not.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I do not pass the test of am I an artist, unfortunately.
Why do you say that?
Um,
Because I really feel like you mean it.
I do. Yeah, I really do mean it. I think it comes from I didn't have any connection to like family that were in the arts. Like there was no one. My mom had done dance, and she had shared with me that she was in like the Rockettes, which obviously didn't mean anything to me because I had no idea what that was. And it was actually kind of cool to learn later, like, oh, this was like a legit like dance team. But so it was very much like business and type A's. There really wasn't like an art culture fostered. Like my mom would take me to art museums and things like that. So I did do a little bit of that. But it was never like integrated into like life. I really didn't have a whole lot of examples for what being an artist was. Yeah.
So what did you gravitate towards when you were younger? Like, I know you say you're not an
Yeah.
artist, but you clearly are an artist. So like what?
Yeah, it was more technical stuff. It
Yeah.
was funny. It was like I really wanted to be an astronaut. Like seriously wanted to be an astronaut. Or like a fighter pilot. Like I'll never forget like seeing Top Gun for the first time. Just I was awestruck. Like I thought it was like the greatest thing ever. But yeah, I just really didn't have a lot of moments where I considered artists. Like I think like it's funny, like you saying that, I think back to I attended this little like private elementary school in Alabama. And there was this one kid that could like really draw. And he always won all the awards. And it immediately made me give up on like visual art drawing because I was like, oh, my stuff's garbage. This kid's stuff is
Stick
amazing.
figure isn't
Yeah,
holding up.
Oh yeah, it was so bad. And so I think that was my first notion of like someone being an artist was that kid. Yeah.
So when you and I met in film school, we were in the screenwriting program.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Well, that came from I really didn't love the job that I was in, and I was working at a church doing live production, post production. By that point, I think I was doing IT work too, which is laughable to me. Like I know a lot about computers, but I had no business managing a network. That was pretty hysterical. And so I was editing interviews. I was very much kind of like a producer. I was managing artists, honestly, artists that were much better at the craft than I was. Two of my coworkers or colleagues are really good in like After Effects and Photoshop. And one actually went on to go to School of the Arts too later because I really encouraged him because I was like, you're so good at this. Like, please think about attending School of the Arts. And he ended up doing it. So I thought I was working in a creative capacity at the church, but I kind of quickly figured out that I wasn't. I think I was managing creative people, and that's probably what I would have called it at the time. Like I was managing creatives. And I had a friend that was going to apply to School of the Arts, and he was like, hey, you should apply. And I was like, I really like, I got a kid. I don't have time to like do school and do a full-time job at the same time. And I was like, I don't even know that I have the money for like the application fee. So he ended up paying for my application fee. And then my wife at the time was really encouraging me to do it. And so I was like, sure, like I'll apply, whatever. I knew I had material for a portfolio because of all the post-production work that I had done. And so I just applied, and unfortunately I got in and my friend didn't get in.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've taken some time to heal that.
Are you guys friends now?
To talk through that. Yeah, no, we still are. He uses it as a jab every once in a while, and I'm like, he's always like, I forget. Oh well, he also is like, oh, Aaron took my job, and I'm like, no, that's not how that went. Like, come on, like let's be real.
Well, I think a lot of people who call themselves artists have a
Yeah,
certain way of expressing themselves. It's about, challenging this energy that's inside of you.
yeah.
Um, I know as a kid you talked about being an astronaut, but what was what was the way you channeled? And I want to say music because I know you play instruments.
Yeah. So the the other moment that that I can think of was I had a friend. It was through my parents. It was like their adult friends. They had a kid, and they would make him write. Like it was like an assignment thing. And I had pretty strict parents too, and so I immediately just thought like, oh God, like this is just worse than what I have. But when he showed me like the product of his work, like he had like this plastic shelving thing, and he'd pull it out and like show me these stories. I think it was the first time that I ever saw what like an organized, intentional artistic life could look like.
Hmm.
And I think, like you said, I ended up later channeling that through music. And I think music was really my only expression. I did some writing, but it was never super intentional. I don't know that I ever felt connected to what I was writing. It always felt kind of forced. Like I took some creative writing classes. Um, I never did very well in them. Like I never really felt connected to what I was doing.
It's so surprising for me because when we met at the School of the Arts
Yeah.
and screenwriting, I thought you were just like the business.
No,
Like,
no, no. I had so much to work through in coming to School of the Arts. In the sense of having come from the Christian world, it's very it's very shallow in the sense of themes.
mhm.
And I think it's shallow in the sense that it doesn't allow for contradiction. And so I was kind of artistically raised in this, this environment where everything was about a lesson.
It's
Like,
always good versus evil. Good always wins.
yeah, and there was
Yeah.
some specific thing that people were supposed to take away. And so I think School of the Arts was my chance to discover an artistic expression where that wasn't true, where
Mm.
you were able to get away from these really strict confines of what a story was supposed to be or what it was supposed to do.
So, how long were you into the church production scene before you migrated to School of the Arts?
I think I've been there like 6 years.
Was it just because you wanted a job, or was it because you really like enjoyed
Oh,
that side of things?
well, no, no. It came from like my first undergrad degree was pastoral ministry, and so that was the goal, was to get a job as a pastor in a church, and so I did that. I ended up going there because the vice president from the school that I graduated from, the Christian school, had become the pastor, and
Mm.
he seemed to be like pretty honest and I don't know, at least more open than what I had seen in some of the interviews that I had been in. And so, yeah, that was really it. It was just to take a job as a pastor, and then that expanded and opened up when I started bringing like art to sermons and things like that. Like I was very big about short films or music videos that
Mm-hmm.
expounded on things. And so that's really where it started.
Was that a discovery for you, like that you had this interest in like telling stories through videos and
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was kind of eye opening. Of oh, you can tell the deeper story through artistic elements,
mm-hmm,
because obviously, like churches, it's very much about orating. Like that is the main expression that you see. And I think I pretty quickly felt like we're missing people because we're not open to the idea that not everyone receives information in that way. Like
right.
for some people, they're going to tune it out. They're not going to connect to it. And so I think it was really a moment of knowing that I loved movies and that I kind of kept that separate. And it
Mm.
was like, oh, this is a way for me to connect those feelings and connections that I've made through films in these, quote unquote, like spiritual moments at like church events.
Was it? I guess it wasn't anything like me in my experience where I wasn't allowed to watch
No,
PG-13 movies.
no, like it wasn't. I mean, there was definitely that. Like the school that I went to, there were people that I'll never forget. Like, oh, they were like, you can't watch Harry Potter and you can't celebrate Halloween. And I was like, what? That's insane. Yeah, I'm gonna watch Harry Potter just to piss you off because that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. And the Halloween thing I thought was ridiculous too.
It's like free candy. Why?
I know it was really bizarre, but yeah, I guess it was interesting. I had to pull together um, media for like this big youth event that they were doing, and I remember watching this tour that Madonna was on at the time, and she did these vignettes with like dancers. I don't know that there were ever any like acting. It was more just like physical dancing, but she'd play out these vignettes, and I was like, that's really cool. But I think what I was connecting to was, oh, that's what it looks like when you're not constricted to rules,
Mm.
when you're able to open the boundaries and tell the messier stories, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it started.
So, not considering yourself an artist, going through this,
Yeah,
your first year at film school, what
yeah.
was it like?
It was terrifying. Like I'll never forget. I think it was like producing class, and they were like, you need to come up with 7 ideas by next week. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can come up with one idea. And it was also like, you're going to have to communicate it to the class. And I was just like,
Like, pitch the idea.
oh my God. And like now I know, like I have like social anxiety. So like that was the worst thing you could have ever have told me. Like one, I have to come up with an idea by next week. Two, and then I have to come up with 6 more. And then 2, I have to stand up in the front of the class and express it. Like it was horrible. It was terrifying.
You hit it very well because I don't remember any.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's self-preservation at all costs. Like, um, yeah, like that was the goal.
So, I mean, why did you apply? Like, I know that you had this friend who was nudging you, but there had to be something there for you to be like, I could do this, or.
I think it was more just wanting creative freedom. Like I think I knew that I didn't belong
Hmm.
in the church world in the sense of that Christian culture, because you weren't able to ask questions, you weren't able to accept everyone's kind of messy story, or even the idea that humanity is messy and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
contradictory. And so I think what happens when I'm encouraged to do something that I don't really have context for and I don't feel comfortable doing, I will just shut it all off and just say, all right, we're just going to try this. And, whatever happens, happens. Um, but I mean, it was also I call it like a creative respirator from the church. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was honestly like creatively dying at the church.
So
Yeah.
did you have any kind of expectations though, like going through film school? Like
I think it was just freedom.
it was just freedom.
Like I honestly, I think it was that. I think what messed me up most was getting to School of the Arts and kind of having this career thing shoved in my face.
Mm.
And I say shoved in my face, like it's a natural byproduct of,
Well, this is why you go to college
of
to get a
attending.
degree. To
Yeah, well, it's just a natural byproduct of attending an arts conservatory.
right,
Like, why are you not there if you're not trying to use the school to get placement in a career?
right.
But that didn't help me. I think I would have been a lot better off if I had been able just to focus on my development as a person and as an artist, like as a writer.
So that first year, it was kind of stressing you out because you're like, I just wanted to do this semi fun, but
Yeah.
like I'm paying for it. I kind of
Well, yeah, there were a lot of expectations, like even from family, and I think it's hard because they don't have any concept of what you're doing, and so I think they can feel like, oh, well, if you meet this person and you're able to have a conversation, like you'll have a job in the industry, and none of it worked that way. Like some of the cringiest stories I have were meeting the people that I thought, I was supposed to impress. And they were going to give me, they were going to roll out the red carpet into the industry, and it didn't work that way.
didn't work that way.
No, not at all. Like just terrible,
But I mean, you had to come
awful.
with, you were married, you had a kid by then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it was kind of insane too, because I was still working full time. So that was how I was able to do it. Was I told the church, hey, I want to improve like my editing skills and filmmaking to help me at the church. When in all reality, that wasn't the reason. I just hoped that they would sign off.
You lied to church people?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd do it
How dare
again
you?
in a heartbeat. I got used a lot as well, so
Well, fair.
it was a two-way street. Yeah, so I mean that was really the way that I sold that to the church. So it was insane. Like
You were doing
I
a
would
lot.
I would go to, like, there were academic courses that I still had to take. I think I had to take like Western philosophy and art history, which obviously coming from a Christian institution, you can tell why I had to take this.
Right.
So I would go for class at 8 a.m. I'd finish up at like 9:30, whatever. I'd go back to work, and then I'd have class again at 2, from 2 to 5. And so I'd be at work all the way up until like 1:30, and then I'd drive back to School of the Arts for class from 2 to 5. And then my ex-wife, she would bring up our son, and we kind of like eat dinner at the school, and then I'd have class from 7 to 10.
7 to 10. Yeah.
And then when I started writing, I was writing instead of sleeping.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was an insane time. So it was like it was like a pressure cooker in the sense of expectations, and even the expectations I have for myself. Like, I'm way too serious. I so easily put on the, I guess what you call like the responsibility piece. Like, I so naturally pick up the responsibility piece that I don't allow myself, the space to just connect to something. But it was really hard to grow.
I mean, like
Yeah.
I mentioned, I thought you were a fantastic writer when we met. We ended
Yeah.
up becoming writing partners
Yeah.
on a lot of things. I mean, I would just have never
Yeah.
guessed you had like no inclination to writing whatsoever, and this
Well,
is like your first time.
it was funny. I think I just naturally gravitated towards deeper like films. And so, and I'd kind of always wondered, like, does everyone love these? And they're what would be considered like hard films. Like, they're not, you don't walk away feeling hopes and dreams and sunshine. Sometimes you might feel like your soul was crushed. Or it might feel really heavy. And so I think I had that to my credit coming into School of the Arts. And then obviously I was older too. And so I was very much connected to characters and the world and all of those pieces. But I just had a lot of developing to do, honestly, as a human. I don't think I was really able to grow within church culture.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in a bubble and you're on
Yeah.
a path.
Like I think I stifled that.
Yeah.
I think I really thought like, oh, I can change things in the church world because I do connect to some of these like darker and deeper things. I can bring that to the church world. And I pretty quickly figured out,
No,
no, I
those are
can't.
not
I'm
wanted.
not going to be able to do that.
We tell a specific story in the church
Yes.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no deviation from it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's too why we kind of gravitated. It surprised me last time when you talked about how you just saw me and I was like this carefree, and here you are with
100%.
all these responsibilities, working a full time job, taking care
Yeah.
of kids,
Yep.
marriage,
Yep.
and then diving into something that you had no idea
Yeah.
what the water was like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really helpful for me to see the way that you navigated, even though I was kind of incapable of it at the time. But yeah, it just comes from that responsibility part. Like I just will sacrifice myself to do what's right, you know.
All right.
And honestly, I'm doing it to myself. Like no one's asking me to do this. I'm just kind of naturally disposed to I don't know what you call it, but yeah.
I mean, do you feel like, when we define artistic life, I mean, that's a part of it as well, the life part of it, this,
Yeah.
responsibility part. So how do you feel?
Well, honestly, I think artistic life is really for everyone. I think we all are artistic. I just don't think that it's something we value developmentally. And so even with like art classes and, in elementary schools, it's a lot of visual arts. It's kind of like art appreciation, but I think art is a perspective on life. It's a way of seeing the world through illogical eyes, so to speak. And so I don't think that there's a strong influence of that. I think art is very much considered a craft and a career. It's not considered a way of life. And I think art can teach us a lot about life, which is why I kind of feel like we're all artists. We don't have any context for that concept. We very much see it in a logical framework of that it's an occupation. And I'm like, it's a feeling. It's a way of looking at things. It's not an occupation. If you can turn it into an occupation, that's awesome. But yeah, and obviously, it's taken me a while to get to that definition of what being an artist or what an artist's life could look like.
Is.
Yeah.
So when you said in the beginning, like, you don't
Yeah.
consider yourself an artist, it's more so you don't consider yourself an artist in the way that most people would think of an artist.
Yeah, it's interesting coming from School of the Arts where it's very much about graduating and going into your career field. And so I think if you look at me, I don't fit the litmus test. Like I haven't achieved the things that you're supposed to achieve to make you an artist as occupation. And so there's almost a part of me that's kind of glad that I failed, so to speak, because it's deepened my understanding of art and the intersection of just art and the everyday world, and how much it can improve life and how much it does improve life for people. And I think it was almost like this weird swap of like religion to art is really what happened. Like my first half of life, so to speak, was very much about religion. And my second half of life has been about art and better understanding what that means.
And let's talk about that because, we go through 3 years together at
Yeah.
School of the Arts. You finish and do the fourth.
Yeah.
And then what made you continue?
Yeah.
So everybody doesn't know, but like,
Yeah.
what happened after School of the Arts?
Well, so at School of the Arts, I got to like my third year and I wanted to quit. Like I really just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I hadn't hit any of the quote unquote benchmarks. And so I reached out to Lauren Vilcek, who obviously, you're a professor and mentor. And I had been working primarily with screenwriting mentors before that. And so I just went to her and just said, hey, I think I'm going to quit. I really think I'm wasting my time. And I think I went to her because she saw me as an adult, whereas a lot of the other faculty members, just for some reason, just felt like they had to lump you into everyone else.
Right.
So she was able to react to that as, no, you're not wasting your time. I know what your problem is. You're going to do an independent study with me and we're going to take a year to work through it. And she was right. She was able to, quote unquote, mechanic me when it came to writing, like what was keeping me from being able to write cohesive stories. And so that led me to, I got to the point in my fourth year where I actually had films that had been made based on the screenplays that I had written. And so I felt like, oh, well, this is going to lead to, I might actually pull this off. And so there was this secretary to the film dean. I would go in and just have conversations with her every once in a while. And she was like, oh, there's a former student that I think you should connect with that'll be out in LA when you go for the LA trip, which is like, the senior trip that we all take
Right.
where we're trying to get jobs and interview and all those things. And so, I did that and I was able to connect with that alumnus. And it was kind of the funniest thing because he was like, yeah, that's great. Why don't you send me like children's TV show ideas? And I was like,
Random?
children's TV? Oh,
Was
oh,
there a reason for that?
okay. Yeah, like he was connected to like Paramount, had done like like a dramatic feature, but was getting offers to do like children's TV or something, or was just like there's a lot of money in children's TV. And so, I sent him stuff. He would respond, but I kind of quickly figured out that because I couldn't take the time to go intern in LA, to go be on a show and spend, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that I was not going to just make it from North Carolina. And it was very much one of my goals that I wasn't going to sacrifice my kids to have a career
To go to LA.
in film. And so that's what led me to where I'm at now, where I'm working at School of the Arts. I'm working in student affairs, but I'm also now getting to teach in first year seminar, and I'm able to talk about artistic life. And so there's that part of me that's kind of glad I quote unquote failed.
Yeah, let's take it back to that. What was it, like a intense thing with Miss Velchik? What did you
Oh,
call it?
yeah.
Was
It
it
was
like a class or
no. So she had said, all right, we'll do an independent study
independent
and
study?
you have to write a description. And so she had told me what we're going to work on as theme.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So I wrote some, like BS one-liner and sent it to the assistant dean, and they granted me an independent study with her. And what was interesting is that Lauren was able to get me to relax and get out of the responsibility mode. So it was honestly the first time that I was actually produced. I can look back now and see,
Wow.
well, yeah, she's been a producer for over 20 years. She works with artists all the time. So it was kind of the first time that I was worked with and coached and managed as an artist. So she was able to get me to relax. And we would talk about more than just films and theme and what we were working on. We would talk about life. So we talked about spirituality, which for me was a way of getting out of religion, but still finding ways to kind of talk about it and redeem it for myself.
Right.
And so she introduced me to a lot of Jewish authors that I still read today. She introduced me to literary authors that were in the vein of what I was interested in, that have blown my mind. Like there's still some of my favorite authors came from her, and some of the books that she was like, and she was just very much like, oh, you should check this out. And
Just
yeah, like there was no pressure, and I would read it and come back and go, oh my God, like I thought I had like a really strong threshold for content. This was rough. Like, this was rough to read. Like, oh my
is
God.
there a book in particular that stands out or
Yeah. She had me read Child of God by Cormac McCarthy, and it's basically about necrophilia. And but it ends in a very redeeming way, which I didn't think was possible. Like it is such a tough book to read. Like
interesting?
it's not a book where you love the main character. You know, like you're being dragged along with the main character in the story. Yeah.
And so I was jealous during this like one-on-one time that you had with Lauren.
That's funny. That's so funny. I was jealous because I couldn't actually work with her within the producing core. So I was jealous of you as well. So yeah.
Going back to this connect, this alumni that they set you up with, I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the triggers for me.
Yeah.
When you said like, oh, he was getting offers to do like children, and he's like, you know, that he
Yeah.
was going to follow the money, so to speak.
Yeah.
Did that occur to you during that time? Because I mean, it definitely triggered me hearing you say it. I was like,
Yeah.
ah, that's just how it is. It's like I feel like
Oh,
you.
yeah. It was kind of, it was strange, but I kind of enjoyed the challenge, because I think I was way too hyper focused on one specific genre, you know, with film and feature film and like drama, R-rated films. And so it was kind of a nice challenge, and I was kind of surprised with how many ideas I actually did come up with.
Okay.
And some I actually, you know, I genuinely kind of liked. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I just wish I had thought that way a lot earlier.
As in, like you had a broader.
Well, it goes back. I think it goes back to some of the conversations that you and I have had. That the conversation at times could be limiting within an arts conservatory, whether it was faculty or students, because like you know there weren't a whole lot of conversations around making properties for like Nickelodeon. We weren't hearing that,
Right.
because it's very much considered a rinse and repeat type of, you know, idea where it's like a serial idea that could never end. You could do for, you know, 100 seasons. And, you know, a lot of it was green screen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the dialogue's not great. And it's all about efficiency and getting it out quickly and, you know, being able to shoot 20 episodes for a season, you know, I don't know, I assume like, you know, 6 months or something insane. But that was definitely their model, was to spit out as many episodes as possible. And so we didn't get those conversations. That wasn't anything I ever considered. And again, I wasn't like you in the sense that I couldn't see the overall landscape to see other opportunities. I only saw this one lane, and I dug in like with everything, so to speak. Like I invested everything in that. And I wish I'd been more open, because I could have come to that place with more solidified content, you know, than what I had. But
What came out of your independent study with Lauren? What movie?
yeah, so it was called Tenuous, and it was about two sisters that have been abused, and I worked on theme with Lauren, and so that whole story really revolved around the idea of abused women defending themselves. And that's really why I wrote that story. I wanted to write a story where it was believable that an abused woman would fight back for herself. And so it was cool. Like it was, and I wasn't the only student in that independent study. There was another student. And so that was helpful for me too, of that I had to talk about it in front of the student. I think his name was like Eric Anello. And he was interested in similar, like darker things. And so it was helpful to be in that space and have to talk about it. And I was kind of intimidated by Eric because he was like a little more like counterculture, you know what I mean? Me coming from the church world, everything's about being clean cut and perception and, all the things. But yeah, so Tenuous is what came out of that. And then there was a project called Roses for Margaret, which another student had written. For some reason, I don't know if it was faculty or the students they were working with, they didn't love the direction it was going in. And so they asked me if I would do a rewrite because of Tenuous.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yeah, sure. Like I'll take a hand at this. And Lauren definitely helped me through that one. I wanted to like give up on that project. I was so sick of that project. But it ended up getting made as well, which was cool. I think that's really what I walked away with was it was the first time that I had product of having done work, artistic work. And
Was that the fourth year film? Or
yeah, so yeah, Rose for Margaret was like a third year, and then Tenuous was the fourth year. Yeah, and I definitely, that was like a goal. I wanted a poster. Like we had the film posters on the side of the building, and there was an alumnus that the year before it had 2 posters, and so that had become like my goal. And then obviously I was to the point my third year, like I think I'm gonna have 0 posters. So I'm intimately connected to the struggle of a developing artist, even though I went through it as, more of an adult, in my late 20s. I could resonate with these high school kids that were trying to take that route. And you're struggling with yourself, and like your own mythology that you have about artistic life, career, industry, all those pieces. Yeah.
And you finished School of the Arts, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I finished School of the Arts, and I didn't have like some concrete opportunity to, to go after in LA, to move to LA.
Right.
And that, I think that was part of it, was I wasn't going to move when I didn't have something concrete. And so that's what it was. It was so I was still working in the church, but I immediately after my undergrad at School of the Arts, got my master's in creative writing. And that was something that my ex-wife pushed me to do that I did not want to do. I was so done with school.
That's what I
was so done with school.
I was asking, like, you didn't really want to, well, it wasn't on your radar to go to school anyway for screenwriting. You end up going, you get a degree, and then you go pursue a master's. And I was so curious about.
Yeah. So I pursue a master's. I'm kind of burnt out as a writer in that time, but it ended up working, to my advantage. But it was during doing that master's that a job opening came at School of the Arts. And so it was like in the job description was peer mentoring. And so I knew the director of student engagement at that time that had posted the position and just said, hey, I'd be interested in this. And so I ended up, getting that job right as I was finishing up my master's. So I graduated from my master's, not with any real product. Like, again, it was like one of those, I want to say missteps for myself. Like I was trying to diversify and try other content, and I just ended up with a bunch of like lukewarm, not that great stuff.
What was, because you went to a different school to pursue your master's, what was the big difference in schools?
So it was cool because they had gateways. So like you would sit in on a fiction lecture, a nonfiction lecture, a poetry lecture. And I really enjoyed some of those. Like the poetry lecture, I enjoyed a lot. Like, did it make me want to become a poet? No. But I connected to a lot of poetry work that I wouldn't have. I think the thing that I took away that I really enjoyed, though, was I worked with someone that came from theater. And she was probably the best mentor, faculty member that I connected with. It was really helpful to have a different perspective. I wish I could have just worked with her the whole time. Like, honestly, I wish I had done playwriting instead of film.
Interesting.
Film just felt like doubling down on something that I've already
Right.
done. But yeah, I'm not gonna say I know what I should have done. I don't know. But I definitely took the approach of trying to write different genres, and I just ended up with a bunch of stuff that wasn't that great. So I wish I had focused. If I had done like doing the film track, if I could take it back, I think I would have just chosen one genre and just write in that genre, or have done playwriting.
What genre would it be?
Um, I mean, I think it would have been drama. Like or dramedy, I should say. Like, I think I tried to do like comedy and action, and it did not work. Like, they were okay. But yeah, I wish I would have stuck with like dramedy, so to
Yeah.
speak. Yeah.
So you finish School of the Arts, you get your master's,
Yep.
during which time you get a job at the School of the Arts.
Yep.
So kind of explain to us what it is you do.
Yeah. So the like 75% of the job is new student orientation, which it wasn't hard for me to do. It was a lot of logistics, and there was a lot of like infrastructure to fix, because I lived that orientation, with you when we got accepted. But what was interesting is it connects to like the idea of onboarding, and so it's really pushed for me this idea of, I think I felt like there were gaps in my education at School of the Arts when it came to artistic development. But I think overall in the like I don't want to say like it's not industry, but in the overall world of art makers, I think we leave young artists to have to figure out a lot by themselves. And I think it creates a lot of isolation, creates a lot of really strong critique. And I think it's why artists really deal with mental health issues, because of just the isolating, it's an inherent nature of creativity, is very much you kind of go inside yourself. Well, now in hindsight, I can see you don't want to stay there. You need to come up for air. You need to, come out and connect with people, talk to people. But there's just such a drive when it comes to artists to want to be the best, or to bring like some form of genius that the whole world is going to validate. And it's not really a healthy purpose to have, because what happens when the world doesn't validate your work?
Or to keep producing, or to keep, generating content.
Well, and when you're tying your identity to your art, well, what happens when people reject your art is they reject you.
Right.
And so again, like these are things that we need to be educating artists on. Like I want to see like conferences dedicated to this for artists, where the idea is, hey, everyone wants to be successful in this. You're not all going to be successful. There might be 10% of you that go on to have a career in the arts. So if that's true, is there a way that we could do this so that we're healthy, whether we make it in our career path or we don't? Is there a way that we can do it where we're not judging ourselves, we're not connecting our identity to the work, but the work is separate? So if people don't like the work, fine, they don't like the work. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me as a person. I just think there's a lot to improve on, and that started with that third year I wanted to quit. I saw a TED Talk from Elizabeth Gilbert, and it was called The Elusive Creative Genius. And it was just a different perspective on creative inspiration. And I had never heard an established artist talk about their creative life in such a vulnerable way. And I think we need a lot more of that.
I remember you sharing that with me
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
You you start working at School of the Arts.
Yeah.
At some point, you create this Instagram page called Dear Artist.
Yeah. So
How did that come about?
that was during the pandemic. So like, so many people are kind of stuck in their houses. And I think more than that, we're trying to find purpose. We're trying to like make sense of the world. In higher ed at that time, it was a really rough, stressful time because a lot of institutions are like, are we going to get students? And if we don't have students,
How
like,
do we get
is
money?
the institution going to close?
Right.
So it was awful. Like it was an awful time. And so I was in this space where I think you had given me this book or referenced it. It was about like visualizing. What was that book called?
Do you remember?
It's a couple and they put out a book asking it is given.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hicks, right? And I had read that, and I think what I got from it, like I think what most people get from it, I got from it, okay, what do I have available to myself right now? Like, what can I put out in the world that I don't need anyone else to help? That doesn't require validation or resources.
An
And so
agent.
an agent, yeah,
Yeah.
like nothing. And so it's like, well, I can create an Instagram account. And so I just said, yeah, I'm going to create an Instagram account. And I'm going to curate our resources for artists, developing artists, focused on mental health. And so I started it. I didn't have like some huge following or anything, but I would reach out to other artist friends, and I would do these like profiles. And so the idea was to get people to talk about artistic life as more than just career. And so I would, I'd ask about like challenges or like things in life that they struggled with. And the idea was it was like 3 questions. And so I was trying to lower the barrier of someone having to come and like do a podcast. They could just fill out a form and then I would post their profile. And so, yeah, I did that. I did that for a while. And it was good. I think it kind of, it just like made the work more concrete, like this idea of helping artists and providing another perspective. And it led me to some authors and perspectives that I really respect and connect to today. So like Rick Rubin is one of them. He's one that's really opened my mind to artistry being more than
Yeah, he's great.
than product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still need to read his book that you've
Yeah, The Creative Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you talked about Elizabeth Gilbert's like TED Talk
Yeah.
and hearing an artist be vulnerable.
Yeah.
When did the shift come for you that that's what you wanted to pursue? Like to
Oh, yeah. I think it was just being at School of the Arts and knowing, I interact with young developing artists all the time. And so it became like trying to create resources or like curriculum that I could get the school to connect with. And it took a long time. But I finally now, in being able to teach, I'm able to bring these things to the classroom. I'm also able to create resources in the sense of resources of just here's some tools that you can use before you get into this experience. In the sense of like a compass, like so that you don't get lost. They're not going to answer all their questions or anything like that, but it's at least opening their eyes to the idea of you're growing your identity while growing your craft or your technique and craft at the same time. You need to be doing both, and both are really important. And so, yeah, I think that's where that came from. It was doing the Instagram account, and then starting to create resources for the school over a long period of time, the school finally connecting to some of those resources. And even now, first year students coming in will read the Creative Act from Rick Rubin. And,
Oh,
and
that's
so it's
awesome.
like, I think, I don't know. I think it was like I wanted to teach at School of the Arts, but I didn't know. I thought that would just look like traditional teaching if I would teach screenwriting.
You're
Um,
actually creating your own
yeah.
curriculum to
Yeah. It's kind of
teach.
my own. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different version of teaching that I didn't even know was like important. And it's funny having said, like, I wish there were like conferences and whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I've kind of been able to use what sphere I have connected to be able to try to teach these things to young developing artists in hopes that they don't fall into the same traps that a lot of us fall into.
What differences have you seen this new curriculum
Yeah.
make within the school, and where do you hope it goes in the next 5, 10 years?
Well, it's like, so I really piloted it last year with the first year seminar course. And so I have a really small sample size. This year will actually be the first year that like predominant number of students will get this resource kind of called the Artist Guide. And so I'll have a better sense of, you know, the influence. And this year I'll be able to build more of a custom curriculum based around these resources and ideas. And so, but I think the thing that I've seen in talking to a lot of the students and young developing artists is that I'm able to take the pressure off of them. I think I'm able to talk them back from that ledge of all the pressure and the expectation to say, hey, at the end of the day, this is just storytelling and you connecting to yourself as a human being. Focus on that. Like, you're not going to be great at it. It's okay. Like, you're an amateur. Just be an amateur. Don't try to be polished and perfect because you're not going to be.
You're the
Yeah.
perfect person to do this. I've,
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
to go through it as well.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that you were going to have this responsibility? And now that you do have it, what has changed with you as an artist?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't think that it would have become so concrete. Like, I really don't think that it was going to end up in this type of expression in teaching. I really thought I was going to have to go somewhere else to do this type of work. I thought that I'd have to like create an LLC of my own to kind of shop these resources around to arts conservatories. And so now that I'm here, it really feels like I can lay a foundation that will be helpful to these students so that they're not becoming their own worst enemy in this experience. I think they'll get a lot more out of their experience at School of the Arts because of some of these concepts and ideas. And obviously for some are so hyper focused on success,
Right.
they might not hear it now, but maybe later,
That
it'll,
first fall or setback or
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, the idea of teaching a course and providing some of these resources is really just providing like coded language for them to talk about wellness. That's really what happens when we talk about some of these concepts like sustainability. So it's like the idea of you as a resource, you only have like 100%. Like, you can't give any more than that. And then, you've got family and relationships. And so you can really only give this much. And so when we talk about these concepts, you can tell it's the first time they start to think about the long game instead of, oh, I'm just going to give 100% of myself. I'm going to sacrifice everything to have this dream. Now they're thinking more intentionally about, oh, I can't do that. I'm not going to last if I do it that way.
Right.
I'm going to burn out. And we watch videos about artists who have burned out as well.
Yeah.
And so just doing that alone feels like a win.
Yeah. I totally wish I would have
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
then, and I actually had to go through it and,
Yeah. Oh,
be
yeah.
at that point. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I can't. I can't, this is not sustainable for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not.
Well, and like what we talked about, like from your story, it was connecting to do things that feel good. Like
Yeah.
connect to yourself, and if it doesn't feel right, don't force it. Um, and it's interesting talking about, you know, my story and how I fell into this. This was not something that I ever planned to do. It just felt right. I just followed it. You know, like I, you know, started with a TED Talk, which turned into an opportunity when the whole world had a lot of time on their hands. Um, and that, you know, it was just one step, you know,
Mm.
but they were things that I gravitated towards and that I cared about. Um, yeah. Yeah.
So, Artist Unframed,
Yeah. Artist Unframed.
what does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's funny talking about steps. Like Artist Unframed is just another step
Yeah.
in this journey of wanting to move the conversation forward on mental health and artists, but also to hopefully really aid young developing artists as well. And it comes from having watched an insane amount of interviews with artists. I was obsessive about finding interviews where artists would talk about, you know, creative process, etc. And I think through watching those interviews, I just noticed a lot of the content was about the product
Mm.
and behind the scenes of making it, but it was rarely about the artist as a human. And it opened my eyes to, I think we consume artists in the sense of their work,
Mm.
and we don't go beyond that. And I think it's why artists don't feel this connection with their audience, because it just feels like their audience wants to consume them. And the moment they've gotten the product out of them, they move on.
They forget it. Yeah.
And so I just rarely ever saw the human side of an artist in interviews. And so I think that's where this came from, was wanting to open that conversation to the broader aspects of being an artist, but being a human, like having a family, dealing with tragedy, um, you know, not knowing where you're going, not
Right.
knowing where your work is going, feeling the pressures of life while trying to do that. Um, yeah, yeah, that's where that came from. Yeah, I saw a lot of conversations about creative process and product, and not a lot of conversations about humans.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just definitely like you have been placed on this path to do this.
Yeah, and it's kind of bizarre because
Yeah.
it comes from that religious background
I was gonna say,
of
yeah.
like being a pastor, but then kind of quickly figuring out there were a lot of handcuffs. I wasn't really able to, and I say help people in the sense of just giving them a different perspective, giving a little bit of
Right.
guidance, offering a compass. And that's where I come from. It's like I don't want anyone to think, oh, they're the expert on this, I just follow everything they say. No, like you take the compass and you go chart your own path.
Right.
Like I want to encourage people's agency and autonomy. It's what I can't stand about the coaching industry and the motivational speaker industry. It's very much, I'm the expert, let me give you the secret. I'm like, no,
Right.
it's BS. There's no secret.
I think one individual that I think of that you and I both kind of followed this journey is Mike
Yeah.
Posner.
Oh, 100%.
And
Yeah,
now he's like,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's we kind of what we're talking about is like the deconstruction. We literally watched him deconstruct as an
exactly.
artist.
And and
Yeah.
rebuilt as this now
Yeah.
motivational speaker.
Yeah. Well, it was like he forced the conversation on his own humanity, but he also forced, hey, I'm not in a great place and I'm going to go do these things that I've always wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do because they're just what I want to do as a human. It has nothing to do with art, has nothing to do with the career or the industry or what people expect of me. These are things that I need to do. And his story comes out of tragedy too. You know,
Yeah.
it's like his dad
His
passed
dad,
away,
yeah.
And that's what started, the
Walk
walk
across
across
America.
America,
Mm-hmm.
the podcast he did. Like, that's what people need to see. I just, for some reason, the industry has created these kind of like polished products,
Right.
and it just shines out the human aspect.
And just to be clear, it
Yeah.
does that transformation doesn't have to come from a tragedy.
No,
You know,
no,
we
absolutely
go
not.
through a lot of things as artists that
Yeah.
can make us shift perspective.
I think it's more just making room for that tragedies do happen to us. Like
Yeah.
in our lives, we make everything about work and creating product. There are going to be times where life is going to interrupt
Oh,
you
for sure.
doing that.
Yeah.
And you're better off not trying to ignore it, in hopes of keeping, I guess it's not in hopes of keeping the dream going. It's more artists just, they can't help the fact that they feel like this might be my only opportunity. And it's like, that's not true. Like, go tend to your life.
Right.
Opportunities will still be available, even if you tend to your life and take a break.
It's almost in a sense like with your background in, your degree in pastoral ministries
Yeah.
and like what you're doing now and how it kind of helps. It's almost like everything that we do in a sense is never wasted. Like
Yeah.
as an
No.
artist, you can find,
Yeah.
something that you can carry on and string through everything.
Yeah.
Your life, your artistic life, whatever you want to say. It just all happens. I feel like for a reason,
Yeah.
and we don't see that reason in the moment.
Yeah. I think we're really bad about hyper focusing. Like, we just can't
Mm-hmm.
help ourselves. Like, it's like that, the horse with like the blinders, and you do it to try to be more effective, to not get distracted, but you're actually cutting yourself off from the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration that you need to
To
do the
do.
work that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, life is seen as a distraction.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like the work is
Yeah.
more important or the success. That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and it goes back to that isolation. Like, we're isolating ourselves from the world because we think that's what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go away and you go to the cave and you come up with some great idea, and then you show the world and they validate it. So it's like the lone creative genius.
They
And
would love it or throw rocks at you to go back into the cave
yeah,
and then
yeah, like, we love the, like the auteurs that, write their own work and it's their ideas.
mm,
Like, we're just obsessed with that validation, and it's just not healthy. And honestly, it's just really limiting. Yeah.
it's pretty. I don't know if I
Yeah.
like actually. I mean, I think I have, but like I'm
Yeah.
super proud of you for like taking on this. It has been interesting to watch you over the years like go from this great writer like when we first met to like struggling a bit in like while you were getting your masters. I felt
Yeah.
like that was kind of like the lowest. You
Oh
couldn't. It
yeah.
took you forever to write
I
this
I
screenplay.
survived that time.
It took you forever
It
to
did.
now like seeing you find your purpose and
Yeah.
how it all connects. And
Yeah.
yeah, really.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for like Elizabeth Gilbert, like, I might never meet her, but the fact that she saw the epidemic that we have
Mm,
of, artists literally killing themselves. We basically say that it's normal, to go, I can't stand for this one more second. Like, I'm just going to share my story in hopes that there are some artists out there that will
yeah.
resonate with it and can learn from the struggle that I've had as an artist. And she was really coming from this idea that she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and it's will probably be the pinnacle of her success. She'll probably never write a book like that.
Mm,
And she's like, that's the place that I'm writing my next book.
mm,
Like, that's what she was trying to speak to. And so, yeah, I'm absolutely like so thankful that she chose to do, her TED Talk and to open up. She didn't have to do that. She could have
yeah.
just done, creative process or writing, but she chose to be vulnerable, and I think it's really helpful. I think we need more artists to do it.
And so your plans with this podcast is to interview other artists. What do you think, or what do you hope to find or learn, I guess?
It's funny, like you can, like you can go on YouTube and click on an account, and see all their videos. And, some of those accounts that are based in artistic interviews, it's all about the names. It's about, getting the most famous names. And for me, I can't wait to see a collection of interviews, and it's a collection of humans. It's a collection of stories about their human lives. There aren't any taglines about how to shortcut creative inspiration, or like how to get your film made. It's like it's none of the like prescriptive, anecdotal things that you normally see in interviews with artists. Like that's what I really look forward to.
And just learning more about the human. And
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's
there's more
tough.
lessons to be learned, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I look forward to seeing content like that. I really don't think I've seen it up until this point. I just think naturally society is just kind of obsessed with product and celebrity. We have a really hard time getting past that to see artists as humans. But
Do you think, or are you saddened, I guess, that if you continue down this way, this is probably will be what defines you and defines your life?
no, I think I'm very much one of those people that I want to be involved in things that give back. Like, and so that for me, if I think about like this idea of, trying to think of the word of like, what is it called when you, like your past legacy. So like that means a lot to me, for this idea of my legacy being helping people. It sounds great. Like I'll take that over
Writing a
this
movie.
idea of success any day.
You take that over helping people is your legacy,
Yeah.
and not feel like, oh, I didn't write a script that became a movie, or didn't win an Oscar.
Yeah. No, it feels good to know that there will be people that do those things, and they're able to do those things and their artistic life not harm them. Like that means a lot to me. Like I think that's more meaningful than kind of the shallow version I used to have of like wanting to give, an Oscars acceptance speech. Um, and again, I think it's art, but it's just a different kind of art. Like facilitation is art. People that can facilitate are artists. Like they're
Yeah.
using techniques and expressions, but for some reason we just really limit artists to just this kind of like technical field.
I'm excited for this journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Letting you be a part of it. We're definitely on this journey together. So
You keep saying that.
I
I
am going
just
to
don't
keep
know.
saying that. Yeah, I sure am. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I did the intro this time, so
Oh, yeah, good job. Yeah, click the like button, click subscribe, do all those things that we need you to do, and check out the website. And yeah, we're glad that you're here, and we look forward to telling some more stories.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.